Welcome to SquatchDTV, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, SquatchDTV. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to SquatchDTV for today's date, May the 12th, 2024. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. And again, I'm your host, your guys, Squatch Detective Steve Kulls. There's my co-host.
Steve, happy Mother's Day, man.
Yeah, people call me a mother every once in a while, too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you get any Mother's Day cards here lately? But now we want to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
And I don't know if you got the message. Brad is looking for the link. Peter?
I tried to send it to him. I will try again.
I think he thinks it's a call-in show, but it's not.
Okay, no problem. I'll get on it.
Yeah. So we'll do our daily business. But anyway, Chris, how you been today, brother?
I've been doing good. The weather's been really nice here, man. It's been nice and cool at night, not too hot during the day. Perfect Sasquatch weather. You know.
Our weather has been really messed up. First it's sunny, then it's rainy, then it's sunny, then it's rainy.
Oh, I bet that rainy days really helps that neck out, doesn't it?
Actually, the last, and pardon, I know we shot a video, said we were going to be back Friday, but I just needed, my neck was really bothering me Friday evening and Saturday, and today it's a little better.
Yeah. Well, that video you posted, that last one, that was kind of surprising. I was like, watching along, so, well, what's this going to be about? Steve's walking out of the woods or something, and then all of a sudden, looks like a nuclear explosion goes off behind.
Yes, I got a new special effects package.
It's pretty cool.
I'm always on the prowl for something new, and I love the ground sparks.
I might need to borrow some of that flamage you got going on there.
Yeah. Now, I didn't do that in front of a green screen, but had I done it in the green screen, I in front of a green screen, I could have done a lot more. But I just want to. That's why I kind of shot myself off to the side, let the effects go off to the. But really a cool thing. Yeah, and of course, we got our two friends holding up the "We're Back" sign. But yes, little channel update for everybody. We have no more strikes on the channel. All the strikes have been removed. So that's all I got to say about that for today.
Yeah.
But what's the matter, Chris?
I'm just looking at the chat room here. The chat seems to be hopping along pretty good, you guys.
Sure is. Yes, so hopefully Wednesday starts my shots.
Oh, good.
Yes, I get my rabies, my distemper. Oh, no, wrong set of shots. I'm sorry. Wrong set of shots.
Yeah, they're going to poke those needles in your neck joint. Huh? That's going to be interesting.
Well, they're going to try to right where the trap meets the they're gonna probably stick in there and put some cortisone and some painkiller in there, which is all a good thing.
Well, the cortisone would be good. Yeah, definitely good. Get some of that swelling down, and maybe those joints can plop back in place, or discs can plop back in place.
Right. Yeah. It's very interesting. I just got a security alert on my debit card.
Oh no!
I'm pretty sure it's sitting right there in my Mike, I thought you had your rabies shot.
Did your assistant Watson?
I have to keep it up to date along with my distemper.
Yeah. And, did your assistant Watson grab your card and head down to the local 7-Eleven for some doggy snacks?
No, he's staring now. He just had something, and now he's staring at me. He's just laying there, like this. So the office assistant is busy doing his job tonight.
All right. Sounds good.
And up there's Brad. He's working on getting his devices connected. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Good deal.
And I wonder if there was there was an authorized debit or something that just came back. I don't know. It's all weird.
Well, if you need to pause the show for a minute, check it out, man. Go ahead. We'll
let the discussion start in a little bit, and I'll make sure I have my card with me.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We
can get the roll call here.
Yes, let's do roll call. Thank you for keeping because they don't kind of bothered. Okay, roll call for today. Go. First in tonight is Walter Kroll. Hello, Walter. Don Gamau Jr. Good to see you, sir. Relic Tomlin, have a great show, guys. He'll be watching tomorrow morning as usual.
Get you on the replay, but
yeah. And Helton, aka Faster Man, good to see you. Helton, Tennessee, Cherokee, good to see you. Pat Collins, still kicking. Pat's been feeling a little under the weather, so we wish him all our prayers and our good tidings.
And Wilson,
hopefully by the end of the week, we can get back to chatting on a regular basis. I don't know if Brad is going to be here with us in voice only, but we shall see. If that'll be fine. If it is, we can accommodate that. Ristel still in here. Hello, Ristel. Henry May is
Henry.
Henry, great show last week, brother. Grasshopper, hello. John Sasquatch Wizard Adirondacks, good to see you. We'll be doing stuff real soon now. The good beat just popped out. The good weather is here. Finding the Trackway, Bill, good to see you as well. I saw Jen hanging out somewhere in the chat, as well as Sharon and Mick. Yeah. Mick is also here as well. Mick. Daniel Weeks, hello, Daniel.
Daniel, welcome.
Jen even mentioned the office assistant. Yeah, the office assistant is taking a nap. Of course, I looked over at him and he looked back at me like, "Hey, you gonna give me something?" Yeah. Tom has an early appointment tomorrow, so we'll catch you on replay, Tom.
Yeah,
good to see you. Hope all goes well. Buttworm is in the house. Hello, Buttworm. Good to see you. I love that name. Eyes in the Woods. Hello, Eyes in the Woods. Good to see you.
Eyes, welcome.
David Parker. Hello, David. Jay Fritz. David. Jay, what's up, my brother? Jay. Ryan and Chewy go hiking. There he is. Welcome. And of course, we got Charlie Wanton. Hello, Charlie, aka Jimmy. Jeff D is in the house. Hello, Jeff D. Good to see you as well. Jim, traveling with Jim. Good to see you. Brian McMahon. Hello, Brian. Chuck, our good friend Chuck Truth, you're out there. Hello, Chuck. And okay, rolling right along here. Angel Nolan. Hello, Angel. How are you? Okay. Of course, let's not forget Sharon is from Belgium, so she is actually up late to spend time with us.
Shout out to Belgium, man.
Of course, we got Mike Gann, tactical Bigfoot researcher.
Mike, contact.
Arthur Watch is in the house. Hello, Arthur. Good to see you. Pete H. Hello.
Pete.
Vault of BS. Hello, Vault of BS. We knew that is. Scrolling fast, trying to get through this here. And Nikki is in the house as well. Hello, Nikki from Sasquatch Secrets. So yeah, apparently Brad is having a little trouble. If he asks any questions, Peter,
sure.
He may want to get on a laptop and get on or with a microphone or.
That's what I texted him, etc. But I don't know why. Yeah, I know it's coming through my phone. That's probably why you're hearing the ding, right?
Yeah, pretty loud too.
And I will turn that somehow off.
So we're
well, that's okay. You know, it wouldn't be the show if we didn't have a few technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's it. You know, my kid could fix it instantly if one of my children. Me trying to go through my settings and try to determine where I got to turn that off. Wow.
What is it? After you pass 40 with children, you forget how to hook up a VCR. Of course, those are things of the past now.
Right. I'll figure it out, Steve. You go ahead.
I'm typing him a message.
Okay.
Because he did hit us on the message in private chat. So we're just dealing with little technical difficulties, but that's pretty easy compared. When we used to have technical glitches on Blog Talk, that was a nightmare.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So
It's okay.
here it's pretty easy. Blake Burrows snuck in too as well. While we were
Yeah, I caught Blake while
Tom Steenberg, Mrs. Trackway. Hello.
Welcome.
A few new ones. That's right. But Worm says he loves Tom Steenberg. Yep.
Yeah.
So okay, here we go. So Peter, for those who don't know, is the owner of the beautiful We Want You cottages out in Chautauqua Lake, New York. Wonderful area. And of course, he is the creator, owner, whatever you want to call it, the Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo, which is usually held Camp Oniasa in DeWittville, New York, which is on the other side of the river from where Peter is. It's kind of funny. You can sit there and watch. You can almost see the camp from We Want You. And then in the morning, we all just drive around the lake and head over there. And even Mike says amazing cottages, great event. And what a wonderful time. Yes, Blake, you were around for those Blog Talk days, and here we still are doing it, but I think this is a much better format. So Peter, let's talk about first of all, for those who don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, because it's been a while.
My name's Peter Wiemer, and I'm the owner of a cottage resort here for the last 45 years. I started out with my mom and dad, and obviously now just me. And I have 30 cottages on the lake. I have 9 pontoon boat rentals and 12 fishing boat rentals. And I'm a tourism kind of guru. I was the first chairman of the Ice Castle Extravaganza in Mayville back in 1987 for about 5 years. And then I became chairman of the Great I Love New York Balloon Rally for 2 years. And before that, I created the I Love New York Windsurfer Championships. Back from 81 to 86, I had an international windsurfer sailing school, and we taught hundreds and hundreds of people how to windsurf, and we taught water ski charters and did parasail rides. And that all led me to this Bigfoot adventure. I thought, wow, I'm going to do a tourism special event where, as an entrepreneur, maybe I can make money at it. And I probably should have done a Duck Dynasty convention back then, but I did a Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo. And from being at the sport, travel, and outdoor shows promoting my cottage resort in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo for about 26 years in a row, I became real good friends with Larry Batson, because he did the Cleveland and Pittsburgh show for about 17, 18, 19 years of those years.
The late, great Larry Batson, I might add, too.
I know. The late, great Larry Batson. Larry Batson back then did an animal wildlife show. I kid you not, in Cleveland. Back in the day when shows were shows before the internet came on, he would get 500 people to watch his show. They had 500 chairs in the Cleveland IX Center. This Cleveland IX Center is 1 million square feet, used to be a tank factory, and they made it an international exposition center, and they built an indoor Ferris wheel that goes through the roof 2 or 3 stories, all glassed in, and it's Hollywood. It's an experience.
Right.
Back in the day when the shows were Hollywood. And Larry would talk Bigfoot to me, and I ended up buying 3 of his cassette tapes on his Bigfoot lectures. And I reached out to Larry when I came up with this Bigfoot Expo idea, if he'd help me put together an event, and he did. We did it 2 years in a row. The second year, Bob Gimlin, along with Tom Yamarone, came, and I flew them out from, I think, Seattle, Washington, and Tom had to drive up from San Francisco to pick up Bob Gimlin and take him to the airport. Bob back then, I believe, was 82 years old. And he got to and we got to spend a week with Bob Gimlin here at We Want You on Chautauqua Lake. On his way down, I believe he stopped at Niagara Falls, which is probably a 15, 20-minute, half an hour drive at the most from the Buffalo airport. Excuse me. We did. And Steve Kulls here has been to each of my Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expos. I hosted, I paid for, I had 9 Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expos and lost on average $4,000 a year. That's because I couldn't get any sponsors down here. I couldn't get anybody to believe what I obviously know is real. Right. And what the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, as an example, appears or apparently can get sponsors down there because they got a lot of believers. But around here, they probably look at me as a bit off.
No, I don't think it is. I think part of that issue is the remoteness of Chautauqua Lake. I mean, a lot of people don't even know the history of Chautauqua, which is really an amazing place. I think it was President Woodrow Wilson that actually spoke at the Chautauqua Institute at one time. I mean, presidents have stayed there.
Correct. When Bill Clinton was running for his second election, he came to Chautauqua Institution as his training ground for his debates. And he stayed there, and they shut down the lake. They told me that I couldn't send my rental boats out in front, blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting. It was fun. It was that's cool. It was cool. It was cool. I said back then I was going to get a picture and Photoshop it with Bill Clinton at the Chautauqua Athenaeum with Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, God.
And I mean, poor Chautauqua, they hosted Solemn Rushdie last year, or, it's been over a year now. The poor Solemn got stabbed at the Chautauqua.
Yes, that's what I was just looking up there. It was that there was an assassination attempt.
Unbelievable. I mean, poor guy. I mean, even he should have insisted on obviously better or whatever. It's not my business, so it's none of my business, but we're all armchair quarterbacks after the fact.
It's we're not really getting into the politics of this.
Right.
It's the fact that the area
they were there.
But I'm sorry, I created this Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo, and unbeknownst to me, I became the center of the universe of Bigfoot eyewitnesses in Chautauqua County, Cattaraugus County to the east of me, Warren County, PA to the south of me. I mean, we are in probably a target-rich, area of Bigfoots that
he's having some issues apparently.
I can't.
And my suggestion, he's listening, so my suggestion would be go into the settings feature, and you can find your microphone there. You should be able to lock into your microphone built in and your video camera as well if you have one on your monitor. It should be in the settings.
And we're talking. I'm on a Mac, obviously, and I'm looking.
Well, generally, StreamYard is very easily plug and play. So,
right,
I'm running no special equipment here. If I used to run a little soundboard, but that was an issue, not with StreamYard, but it could have been with StreamYard, but for the most part, everything is plug and play with StreamYard. My microphone plugs in, my camera's plugged in. All I do is just click and good. I'm good to go.
Right.
So I don't know. There's
I got it now. It won't happen again. You're right, Steve. I just have to go to settings.
Yep.
And Apple does make it pretty intuitive. So let's see if I push the right tab. So unbeknownst to me, I became the center of the universe of Bigfoot eyewitnesses in Chautauqua County, Western New York, Buffalo area. I mean, if there's 45 that came forward from Chautauqua County to me, there's 100 or 200 or more that won't.
Right.
I have this story, and I tried to reach out to somebody in that area. Apparently, back in 1967 in Panama, there was a brother and two sisters, or a sister and two brothers that were sitting on a picnic table out in Panama, New York, in one of the state lands over there. And they were just hanging out, and they saw a Bigfoot in the woods, right just inside the woods. And they all sat there and watched each other for quite some time.
Let's try this real quick. Brad, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. You're very faint, so you may need to turn your mic settings up, but we got your voice, so that's good enough for us. So you just may need, if you get back in the settings under your audio options, there is a bar for the mic, or you can auto adjust the mic. I was wondering, and we just lost them. So
more guys came in. OPR or 357.
That's got to be him. Yep.
Kaiju Ninja. Stephen
Kaiju
Ward.
Ninja in the house.
Welcome.
Yeah, he may sound good on your end, but he's very low. I mean, everybody had trouble hearing him a little bit. There we go. Let's get him back in. Okay, Brad, you there?
I think I'm here.
Okay. Now, either you need to get closer to the mic, or we need to get in the settings and just turn that mic up a little bit. We can hear you, but you're very faint on our end.
Yeah, there should be a button on Blog Talk there you can click and open it.
We're not on Blog Talk, Chris.
Oh, sorry, on StreamYard, my bad.
Yeah, down there in the middle there, at the lower part of the screen, there should be a settings button. If you click on that, click on audio, you should be able to. Oh, and there we even have a picture. Look at that.
Wow, Brad.
Oh, we just lost the picture. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just nighttime.
Yeah, I'm thinking Blog Talk here because usually we don't have these kind of issues, but back then this was common.
His audio is very low, though. So you may need to go into settings and just. Now, you're pretty creepy, but we're still hard to hear. Here you go.
Blair Witch.
Wow. Okay, boys, I'm here.
Okay. So we're just going to have to listen very carefully.
Yeah, we'll just.
So while we got Brad.
Hey, Peter, thank you.
I'm going to just give you a quick 1-minute synopsis and introduce Brad. So out of my Bigfoot experience since 2012, I'm up to 45 eyewitnesses from Chautauqua County, 8 or more from Cattaraugus County, more than a dozen from Warren County, PA, that have reached out to me, and the Bigfoot Expo I created, resolving themselves and knowing they've seen a Bigfoot, but were reluctant to talk about it to anybody until we gave them an audience. And Brad is a co-author of my book that we're trying to put together called I've Seen Bigfoot, just like the name of the movie, or I Have Seen Bigfoot. And so we are asking for eyewitnesses everywhere that want to go on the record, that want to get their name attached to if we believe it, we'll print it. And Brad has written over 11 books, one of which is on the case knives from Little Valley, New York. And once Brad starts talking about that, it's over. But Brad is helping me write this Bigfoot book, and we need your eyewitness story if you got one. And if not, if you try to make it up, we'll figure it out. You'll be barred from any of our work going forward. Brad, it's your turn.
I'm going to put my mouth close to my microphone. Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yep. That'll work. Yep.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Sorry. You don't have to.
Yeah. That's all. That's a lot better. Yep.
But, I mean, we have, really through Peter, thank you, Peter. I mean, Peter has been researching this and bringing people together for what, a dozen years? And what I do is I'm a very serious investigative journalist. So people will send a story to Peter and then I will interview them on the phone. So the problem with Bigfoot people, my experience, and I'm a believer and I'm an experiencer, is they like to keep their stories to themselves. You know what I mean? And it's like their own secret little evidence. And if we don't capture this information for this region, and we're talking Western New York, Northwest Pennsylvania, parts of Ohio, it's going to go to your grave. You know what I mean? It's going to become family lore. And what Peter and I have decided to do is we are documenting hotspots. And Peter, you tell me how explicit you want me to get with these, but we have 4 serious places where real stuff is going down with experiences even early this year. And one of the spots is I camp there all the time, and I've had one experience myself there, and then talking to 3 other people, they've had experiences there as well. So what we're trying to do is put together a real living organic document that says you're not crazy. This stuff actually happened where you were. And I guess any questions, hit me and I'll show you my face.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, both of you have had experiences with Bigfoot. So, Peter, we'll start with Peter. Peter, why don't you tell us what you did, how you came across seeing your Bigfoot for the fleeting time you've seen it?
Well, I obviously own this cottage resort, so I have a firewood supply that I go and pick up firewood for. And I have a 10,000 pound dump trailer. I have a Ram 2500 pickup truck. These are all numbers for people that are hauling heavy loads, because they understand you can't haul a heavy load of firewood with a small pickup truck. But anyways, I was coming back from picking up a load over near Clymer, PA, about a half an hour drive from my house. And I go by this big swamp going by to pick up and home to bring home this firewood. And I swear it's got to be a mile long along the road here. And so I look when I drive. I look for traffic behind me. If I got traffic behind me, I pull over. I just drive slow, and as long as I'm driving by this swamp. So I'm driving like this 2 miles per hour. I see a Bigfoot, a dead ringer, standing there with its arms down to its side, looking at me. The sun's right over the back of my cab. I'm looking this way. I had my Canon camera DSLR up, and there's goldenrods on my side of the road. And I said, as soon as I get to an opening, I'm going to take a picture. I get to an opening and it was gone. I pretty well pulled over and parked. I walked up and down that road for half an hour. looking for a big dead black set tree or a dead ringer of a Sasquatch standing there looking at me. And I think the sun, it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. It was on my side, at the passenger side of the truck. I did one of those just like everybody else did. What did I just see? And I got in my truck, took the wood home, dumped it, picked up one of my kayak rentals that I own, brought it back, realized the swamp was too frozen. This was December 8th, 2014. And then I had to walk a good half a mile down the road before I could enter the swamp without it going over my high muck boots. I have Arctic Glacier muck boots. Right. You got to buy a new pair every 2 years. They don't last more. I don't care.
Put some use on them.
You use shoe glue, you can do whatever you want, but it still leaks if you go in cold water. It seems to find its way in. They're worth it. They're worth their weight in gold to buy them every year if you're going to walk through water a foot deep. But I walked finally in. I walked, I swear, a quarter of a mile or longer into this swamp. I couldn't make the left towards where the Bigfoot was. And I turned around, started walking out about a good 1,000 feet from the road. A thicket bounces off the inside of my glasses and into my eyeball.
Oh, no.
I pull out a toothpick. Honest to God. I'm basically crawling out of the woods now. I was by myself. It was the last time I did it. After that, I went and bought a Phantom truck, Phantom 2 or 14 or whatever it is. And then I got a 14.20 now, a regular one. I love them. I love drones. But I bring it with me when I go to get wood now, because if I ever see it again.
You're getting a toothpick in your eye again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that again. And I bought a couple of e-bikes last year to look for Bigfoot during the off season over on the state lands or in the gorge, which is state as well. And they're just tools in our, and one of these days, and when I go to the gorge, I run my GoPro camera on top of my helmet. I wear a snowboard helmet, and 24/7 from the time I get on the bike to the time I get off. So just in case, you never know, I'm going to see one. I go where other people have already seen them and her or whatever. If you go on my webpage, I have seen Bigfoot. Right near the top is a link of 7 pictures from Western New York State. And I think that's out near Cherry Creek, Cockane, the ski resort that burned down, unfortunately. And then a new entrepreneur built it and lost, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
It's for sale for $1 million or $2 or $3, but it's also got Bottineau State Forest land over there, and they have a lot of, I believe, Bigfoot sightings. Ryan Reading from that neck of the woods over on that part of the county was the voice in the YouTube video that's at my link on my home webpage of IHaveSeenBigfoot.com of 7 pictures in Western New York of this guy went to his grave. He could have put his name on it, and it's pretty secretive. I mean, they show the pictures. The 7th picture is an adult and maybe a 5-year-old. They're mammals. They have babies. I think there's 20 or more in Chautauqua County. There's got to be at least 5 separate families of mom, dad, 1 or 2 little kids. I mean, shucks, there's 35,000 acres of public and state lands in Chautauqua County or more. Yeah, they got perfect habitat. I mean, if a
Now,
Bigfoot, they,
Tom Steenberg asked when you if there was any snow where you had seen your Bigfoot. Where there did you see any sign of track at all?
have I seen a Bigfoot track?
No. In your sighting, when you went back to the area, did you find any tracks at all?
I never made it to that sighting.
Ah, gotcha.
I never made it all the way around and over there. I didn't go back by kayak. I didn't.
Now, Kaiju Ninja asked too if I know it was a quick glimpse, but can you get into the more detail of the creature itself?
It was just standing, probably getting sun because the sun was over to the right and I was looking to the left. And so it probably didn't notice me until maybe a twinkle from the sunlight off my truck. I have a dark gray pickup truck, which says I have seen Bigfoot, blah, 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 all over it. My kids don't like me to drive it to their functions, et cetera, et cetera. For the same
no.
that eyewitnesses don't want to come forward. I mean, it's a terrible dilemma. And I think if they realize that I know, because I've been beaten up by this over the last 12 years, I obviously got a divorce, I believe partly because of it. But it's because the government will never acknowledge the existence of a Bigfoot, just like they don't acknowledge the existence of mountain lions here in Chautauqua County. Because and I'm going to tell you a quick story. Our past Chautauqua postmaster, Chautauqua, New York, in the Chautauqua Institution, they have a historical post office, and the postmaster passed away last year of cancer. And she would always take a 1-week vacation up in the Adirondack State Park, and with her sister would hike. And I mean, this lady was like hiking crazy because Steve, I mean, I might hike, but that's why I bought an e-bike. I don't want to hike miles and miles, and these people hike miles and miles and miles, like 10 miles, and it's nothing. And they found mountain lion tracks, and she asked the park ranger, hey, why don't you guys tell us about these mountain lion tracks? Oh, that would change the whole ecosystem of tourism here in the Adirondack State Park. We can't talk about that. And that's the reason they can't talk about mountain lions. And that's the reason they can't talk about Bigfoot. Because if they did,
I think we lost connection.
Uh-oh.
From Canada, putting millions of contractors at work. It's all about the economy, and it's not about the reality of Bigfoot or mountain lions. I'm sorry. We can bang our head against the wall forever, and they still won't acknowledge it.
Okay, I think we're having a little problem with your connection there, Peter.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
So, Peter, not to cut you off or anything.
You might have to speak a little closer to that mic.
I wrote about it. Yep, I grew up in Little Valley, New York. Okay, next to the Seneca Indians in Salamanca, the Allegheny Reservation. Okay. So you're dealing with a very spiritual animal and a lot of different animals. Hi-hat, a lot of just weird occurrences that happen. But I dug deep into the Indian mounds and the burials because we have mounds in my area that have not been disturbed. So I did an academic study on those, and it's a book called On Giants. Steve, I think I would send it to you and let you just give it away to your listeners, okay? Mm-hmm. So let's set that up, okay?
Sure.
That'd
And
be cool.
it's just a cool history of what was here, and it kind of dispels. You hate to be a debunker,
Right.
but everybody blames the Smithsonian, right? The Smithsonian erased all the evidence. But the reality is there was some really interesting finds between where Peter and I are located. There's a place called Conewango Valley, and this area, if you stand in that area, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus County, you will realize that that is the point where the glaciers melted back and created the Great Lakes, okay? And the myth among most of the tribes in this area is that there was a tribe of giants. And they maybe weren't hairy or anything. A lot of people point to the Erie tribe as being giants, but there's reports from French trappers who did trade with them. The Erie were not giants. And most of the bones found in the mounds were not giants. But when you bury a body for a long time, you lose the ligaments, you lose the cartilage, and the bones seem to be spread apart. So the body looks bigger, if that makes sense to anybody, you know?
Right.
But there's some weird shit going on in this area. Peter, can I tell him about Pineapple Junction? Did we lose Peter?
He's there.
Yeah, he's muted.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Try it now,
There
Peter.
you go.
Yes, you can talk about Pineapple Junction.
So we have one of the weirdest experiences ever, and it's not a Bigfoot, but the long and short is there is a free campsite near Onaville, New York, near Kinzua Dam. And anybody that knows the history of Kinzua Dam is it was supposedly a make work project. It supplies a lot of power to Pittsburgh. And
You're breaking up, Brad.
they flooded, 10,000 acres. Corn planters greater. And when they created Kinzua Dam, and this is in the 70s and the 80s, the law was that they had to have over 50% Seneca Native workers. And the workers fled. They would not come to work because this strange figure kept appearing on the other bank. And they call it High Hat. So imagine a very gangly, tall Abraham Lincoln wearing a stovetop hat haunting you. It's terrifying. And it's an ongoing thing with Seneca. But we had a guy who encountered High Hat at this campground called Pineapple Junction near Onaville. And this guy sent us pictures. His minivan has 3 claws ripping the top of his van, all along the top of it. This guy fled that place, and then he had to go back, of course, because we're all curious idiots. And I ran into a friend of mine who is now a park ranger, and they have closed that campsite because people keep fleeing, leaving all their gear. And there's multiple things of Bigfoots. You're talking demon dogs, High Hat, different things, but there's some weird stuff going on in this area that can be very spiritual. But when it comes down to the real animal, I was camping in East Otto State Park 7 years ago, and I like to go there late fall. And what I noticed is there's a fake owl. There's just a really fake owl. It's just not real, and it happens at dusk. And this time, about 7 years ago, I got bum rushed. And it was not a giant Bigfoot figure. I think it was a juvenile, but this thing was the size of a man, but on all fours, running as fast as I can imagine. It ran 10 feet from me. And it ran down in the gully below me, Campsite 5, East Otto State Forest, near Zor Valley. And there was another one down there, and they just started whooping, just mocking me. And I did what I've never done before, is I was terrified. And I walked into another campsite, and the guy there was a Buffalo police officer, and he had his gun drawn because he saw it run next to me. And they gave me a beer and let me settle down. And his son told me he was camping there that time the year before, and he was sleeping in the bed of his truck with a cab with his girlfriend, and they were both there telling me the story. And she woke, and there were eyes peeking in the bed of the truck. And
for those listening on headphone right now, you just had your eardrums are now bleeding.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry, Steve.
I can't hear Brad. I just can't hear him. I don't think anybody in the chat.
You're very low, Brad.
I'm screaming into my iPhone here. Sorry,
guys. There should be if you go to the settings button on your thing and you click on the audio portion, unclick automatically adjust mic volume and raise your mic volume up to the max.
Okay.
And unclick the reduce mic. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better.
How was that?
Oh,
that's a lot better.
Yeah. That's a lot.
There
better.
we go.
Is that better?
Yes.
What did you guys even hear?
We heard most of it, Steve.
Most of the chat did not hear it, but let me recap real quick. We'll catch up. Is that you had something bum rush you while you were at camp? You kind of got out of the camp and met a Buffalo, either was it a retired Buffalo police officer or was it a current Buffalo police officer who had his gun drawn because he had seen and heard it as well. And that's at the point.
Current active duty cop. Yep.
Right. And that's at the point we're at right now.
And so his son was there with his girlfriend, and we were talking, and I just said, wow, that was weird. And they were nice enough to give me a beer. And the son told me that they had been camping that fall before with the girlfriend who was there with him at the time. And they were sleeping in the bed of his truck with a cab. She woke up to eyes looking in at them sleeping. And he started banging on it. The thing ran away. And when they woke up in the morning, on top of his truck, which was lifted, so it was about 4 feet minimum in the air, something had just taken a big dump on the hood of his truck. I don't know a human that can do that. And it was big scat. And I said, did you save it? And he said,
or why a human would even want to do that.
Yeah.
Mike asked, is this in Zoar Valley?
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Zoar Valley is a hot spot. We have at least 6 reports right now from Zoar Valley. Yep.
Now, a quick question is, how far is this in relation to the Kinzu Dam?
Kinzu Dam is what, 30 minutes? Probably 20 miles is the crow.
For a lot of people who don't know, the Jacobs photos came out of the Kinzu area.
Well, Kinzu is over 500,000.
Yep.
The Kinzu area encompasses the Allegheny National Forest, which encompasses well over 500,000 acres of forest land. And so there's so many animals in that land that could be anywhere, let alone.
Can I tell you a non-Western New
York
Chautauqua Bigfoot experience I had?
Absolutely.
Oh, my best friends were getting married out in Oregon in Silver Falls State Park. Google it, all of Oregon. And heck of a wedding. We're all hungover, and I stayed to clean up the state park, the pavilion that we used. So they got their deposit back. And I am not saying that I was sober because it was a really fun wedding. Okay. And we're all standing out in front. And during the wedding, I had walked down below the pavilion, and I noticed two game trays underneath this big sequoia tree. And underneath was obviously a really good ambush point for probably a cougar. And we may have some big cats here, but cougar are a serious thing out there. You know what I mean? So it was just something we pointed out.
Hey, and you know what? Here's an interesting point too, is that weddings are usually an ambush point for cougars as well. But I'll let you continue.
Bang, 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 bang.
I was running away from this cougar the whole time. And anyway, so we're standing there and we're looking down. And so there's 3 sequoia trees. The center one is the ambush point. The sequoia closest to us was probably 20, 30 feet high. Center one was probably 50 feet, and the one next to it was a beast. It was 80 feet, 80 to 100 feet. Sequoias get huge. And we're looking, and the little one starts to shake. And the new bride, my good friend, says, "That's weird. There's no wind." And the middle sequoia starts to shake. And her new husband says, "That must be a cat." And then the gigantic sequoia just gives a big shiver. And I've been wanting to see Bigfoot my whole life. Peter saw a Bigfoot. I've been wanting to see Bigfoot my whole life. I had something sprint by me, it was dark. But what I saw was just not what I expected. It was a gigantic refrigerator, jet black, with a bowling ball on top of it. And that's the best I can describe. The thing walked out and walked around that sequoia, and it was 10 in the morning. And it was bright as day, and all 3 of us stood there and watched it. And the one thing I paid attention to was the branch that it brushed against. And it was just a gigantic box with a ball on top of it, no neck. And it just brushed around this tree and disappeared. My friend, the bride, peed herself. The husband started to have heart palpitations, and I ran after it because I wanted to see that branch. I wanted to mark that branch, and we measured it after, and it was 8'8". And the park ranger came to check on everything. You could give the deposit back, and we were settled down. And we just asked him casually, "Do you have any black bear?" And he said, "No, this was all stripped. This was all just all this was forest was gone 20 years ago. We have no black bear." And I said, "Do you have anything else that's weird?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we have Bigfoot reports all the time." So that's my Bigfoot experience, and it's not what I expected. But the best I can explain is a gigantic refrigerator with a bowling ball on top of it. That's what I saw, and it was jet black. And 3 of us witnessed it at the same time.
So Brad, do you live in the western part of New York, or are you on the east side now?
I'm in the Catskills right now, and there's nothing there.
Right. So you're actually very close to me.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So we will have to get together, and I'll take you up to my area. Because I have a real great area. I've had 2 sightings up in that area. So yeah, I'd love to take you out there and have you check it out as well.
The Catskills are just so suburban now. You know
right.
what I mean?
Years ago, I had investigated a series of Bigfoot sightings along the Catskill Creek.
I know that creek well.
Yep. And it's in the vicinity of the Thruway Bridge, actually.
Yep.
So that'll better pinpoint it. And the one thing I noticed was that, why would a Bigfoot come into this area? And the whole side of the road near this one part of the Catskill Creek, which was having all these sightings, was all these wild blackberry bushes.
Yep.
Just, like yards and yards of these blackberry bushes. And that's a big question I ask myself, is that when we have these very close to suburban sightings, as suburban as you can get in that particular area. I mean, there's a few ploppings of houses and that's it. There's forest. And then there's a few ploppings house and then there's forest. And I always would wonder, well, why would it make a Bigfoot come in this close to a residence? Had a very similar experience in the middle of the Adirondack State Park with a family that was living, surrounded by Adirondack State Park near the town of Ohio, New York. And something was, large, dark, and screaming and banging on the outhouse. There was a few houses, like not outhouses, but like satellite homes. There was like a little almost put together type of home, and something banged on it once, and he could hear, and there were screams they kept hearing. And what they were doing was they were taking all their compost, their old vegetables, their old fruit, and their old, lettuce and stuff. And they would toss that on the side of the house. And apparently it was coming to visit that. That was my general theory on that. So, one of the things that you look at for our audience is where or why, what would make a creature come into this area? In Whitehall in the 70s, they had the ones going through the trash cans, and they weren't black bears, because when they looked, they would turn around and stand right there and look at them. That was on, I'm trying to say, it was off of
Adair Road.
No, not Adair Road, but it was off it. The one that had the garbage can rummaging through, it was a side road. Can't think of it off the top of my head. It wasn't Carver's Falls Road. It was just before or after Carver's Falls Road. But that whole particular area was having these experiences. And, it's just, as we realize that Whitehall is basically a choke point between the Adirondack State Forest and the Green Mountain State Forest over in Vermont. So there's a lot of things that, that make sense. And I think that, that whole Kinzu area, the Allegheny State Forest, and the gorge, that whole area is ripe for these kind of events. But the Oregon, how can you're looking at between Washington and Oregon, in Northern California, you're talking about the highest concentration of sightings since this mystery really began, which coincidentally started in Sackett's Harbor, New York.
Was it Gould Lane?
That's it. Correct. Gould Lane. Thank you, sir. Yep.
I just think our area is ripe, and I think I just want to say this. I'm really honored that Peter and I connected on this, because Peter has devoted so much time and money to this.
Yes.
And it's just, this is a noble cause, because we're not setting Bigfoot traps. I mean, we would love to, right, Peter? I mean, we've had a lot of fun on his electric bikes and done that. But what we're trying to put together here is a guide for people to go out and get real with it, and get people to, we're talking to 80-year-old men and also 13-year-old kids, and anybody who has had a weird experience, where we're documenting them exactly where were you, to be a little bit more scientific with the search. The fantastic is great, but to be able to put it to use,
and we will take eyewitness sightings across the USA. I don't know, Brad. Will we take Canadian sightings? Will we take Canadian sightings or just US sightings?
I'll take any sighting. Anybody who wants to tell me a good story, I'm here to listen. But every time we talk to somebody, our range expands. And with Steve, what you've been doing up there is huge. And everybody has their own project going on. But all we're trying to do is just drop a pin and say, this happened here at this moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So people can say, okay, this may be a migration path, or who knows?
Right.
And what we're seeing is clusters of activity in incredibly old areas. People online, Zor Valley is one of the oldest areas probably in the world. You know, one of the oldest trees was discovered in Zor Valley. And the thing about Western New York is there ain't a lot of people, right,
Right.
Peter?
Right.
I mean, you can drive and just see farm fields and wilderness. And what I've never understood, nobody's ever answered to me correctly, is what I always grew up thinking is my area was a fallback point should New York City get hit with a nuclear bomb. And that was always because we have great fresh water here. You know, we have water. And that was always our thing when we were hiding under our desks in high school and elementary. You know what I mean? And this was kind of the fallback spot. But there is an abundance of state-owned land here, especially Adirondacks too. But the Adirondacks get a little bit suburban if you've been up there. But Western New York is wilderness.
Yep.
And add the Seneca, the reservations into that, there's areas that no one goes. And,
yeah, if you're traveling from I-90 from basically and I've done this. I mean, I've been over probably almost every square inch of this state over the years. But if you go from east to west, once you start getting past the Capital District area, where the Capital District area of New York is town. It looks like, if you were to all incorporate it together, it would probably be a very similar population. It would probably be like 300, 400,000 people if you took the entire. But then as you travel out of those particular areas, New York breaks up. And some of the sparsest area in New York I've seen is in the central and western part of New York. As soon as you get to that central part and west, you see towns and cities less and less and less and less and less until you get to Buffalo. And then you see another outcropping, Buffalo, Tonawanda, Cicero, DeWitt. You see all those little outcroppings there. When you go down from Buffalo, you start going southwest. You eventually get into that Chautauqua area. And man, there isn't much out there. I mean, you go out there, there's no McDonald's, there's no it's in the middle of nowhere. And then maybe the nearest municipality you have is Jamestown.
Yeah.
And that's like at the very far west of New York. And then, you walk 10 feet and then you're into Pennsylvania or Ohio, depending on where you are in the state.
Yep.
Well, I got to correct you a little bit there, Steve. I mean, Jamestown, which is, I get it. It's a little city at the end of Chautauqua Lake, but fortunately they have the National Comedy Center.
Right.
They have the Roger Tory Peterson Bird Museum. I mean,
birthplace of Lucille Ball.
Of course. And that's what brought the National Comedy Center here, is because Lucille Ball was born here in Jamestown, and which is wonderful. They've the National Comedy Center has been able to get a lot of the records and history from different comedians that have donated their stuff to the National Comedy Center. I mean, in the beginning, when they announced it and they built it, I think Senator Schumer got them $50 million from the federal government to help with the museum.
Yeah. No, JJ, yes, do they have northern gators there? No gators. Unfortunately, I should say no gators.
Yeah, that's one of the things I tell people that want to come to Chautauqua Lake, and we want you, is, you don't have to worry about crocodiles or alligators in our lake. And
it's got a gorgeous spot there.
Yeah,
Chautauqua Lake is the top of the food chain. literally the national or the continental divide is like 7 miles from me, maybe 8 miles. And then all the water and rain that falls on that side goes into the Atlantic and or into Lake Erie and out into the Atlantic. And all the water that falls in the Chautauqua Lake watershed goes out the Gulf of Mexico, goes down the Ohio, Mississippi. It's the top of the food chain. Golly gee, once it goes past Jamestown, once it goes past Warren, PA, it goes past an oil refinery. So excuse me, but I'd rather swim in Chautauqua Lake than below Warren.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
And, no, totally.
Not to
And
throw
that
rocks
area,
So
that area just south of you too, Peter.
Yeah.
Not when you get down, because there's, if anybody knows Route 219, it's a Peter and I have dealt with that nightmare forever. What they do, they built that
Right.
to go to DC, right? And the Seneca shut it down, and it's just never been finished. But there's an area in northwest Pennsylvania, and that's where the original oil strikes were. You know, the oldest oil derricks are right by Bradford, Pennsylvania. But you go down into that Allegheny wilderness, there's nothing there but fracking. You know, and that's the only thing that's opened up that area. So, Steve, you have it absolutely right. When you're driving down Route 90 and you're buzzing your way to Cleveland, that entire area, when you get past Buffalo, down south, is just really untouched wilderness. And we are hicks here. I have some friends that could double as Bigfoot, you know, but it's a cool area. And one thing I would say is, because I grew up with the Seneca Nation next door to me in Salamanca, you know, it's hard to get them talking.
Right.
It's really hard to open up. I don't know, Steve, if you've had any luck, but
I've dealt with
thing.
I've dealt with the Navajo, the Apache, and the Blackfeet.
Okay.
So
Go boy.
they're very tight-lipped. Native Americans are very tight-lipped, unless you have an inn. And I had an inn at the Navajo, so I got a lot of Navajo stories. And I had an inn with the Apache, so I got a few Apache stories too. The different tribes.
I have good relations with the Seneca, but I was talking to an elder, and I was talking about Bigfoot, and he looked at me cross-eyed, and he said, "Are you talking about the stone giants?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, what's a stone giant to you?" And a stone giant are ancient creatures, but when they come in, if you welcome them in, usually with a fruit or food, like you were talking about, and you become friends with them, when they come into your cabin, they remove a jacket that is like stone, which made my head explode, because we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And the amazing thing, the Iroquois call them the Adenarhe, which means stonish giant.
That's crazy. And you get into a lot of shapeshifters too. And what I try to do is deal with authorities, because I like to. Again, I'm a nerd.
We're losing you, Brad. People in chat are saying they can't hear you again.
I'm a nerd, and I'm an investigative journalist, so I like to deal with primary sources.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I tracked down a guy named White, and he was one of the, when I talked to him, he's dead now, but he was 96 years old. And I interviewed him about a hot spot that Peter and I had identified on Sawmill Run near Salamanca. Sawmill Run near Salamanca. I'll just share these hot spots because people need to know about them, you know? And I just asked him if he'd seen anything, if he knew anything. He said, "No, I've never seen anything. There's a lot of bear, there's that." And I said, "Okay, so what about a hairy hominid wandering around?" And he's like, "No, not really." And I went to hang up, and he said, "Well, there was that time my parents were driving along Sawmill Run in their Model T, and two monkeys were playing in the road." And what do you do with that? You know?
Right. So what I'd love to do is do a show with you sometime, Brad, and have you actually come in the studio. That way we don't run into the troubles here, since you're not too far from me.
Yeah, I
Yep.
apologize for the technical difficulties.
He's in Lowell Valley right now, I believe, and with limited cell service or blah, blah, blah.
Well, if he's on a phone, sometimes the phones don't necessarily play well with Blog Talk and the microphones.
Yeah,
At least if he's on a, if he's on an iPhone, especially, for some reason the iPhone has an issue with the mics. The droids seem to be no problem, but
let's set something up.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to make sure I get your number to you in our little private messaging we've been having. So
it's great. Just what I would say is, anybody listening, this is your thing.
Now we're losing you completely.
We lost it.
Hey, Brad, you're going to have to repeat everything you just. Hey, Brad, you have to repeat everything you just said 30 seconds ago.
Well, anyway,
send us your stories.
Yep. So let's get
in.
Okay, so he's saying, we want your eyewitness stories. I don't want a story. I don't want somebody's making up a story. I want, and Brad is the one that weeds it out. And Brad's a great author and co-author in this case. And I seeked out, and I was lucky, and I met Brad, and it was cool how I tried to interview people to help me with this book. As an entrepreneur, I have a family and I don't have time to write a book. But
well, here is an offer to you guys. I will take Brad up to the spot that I've had my 2 sightings at, and you can add them to your book as well.
All right. And that's what I encourage everybody to do.
And Pat Collins, who is a person I investigated his sighting, which led to me and Mike Ann having a rock thrown at us. He would also would like to be added to the book as well. So
awesome. I agree. And that's what we're trying to do is get the word out there, because I go to my John Deere dealership down here in Faulkner, and a young man salesman there, or in the parts department, his dad saw a Bigfoot, and he told me the story. And I encourage him every time I go in. Hey, get your dad to, why go to the grave without anybody, put your name to the story. If you really did see one, we'll figure it out. And if you want to share it with us, I had a reverend, this gentleman emailed me in 2019 in July. And I can remember it because I've read it 1,000 times. He goes, I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and it said, if you've had a Bigfoot sighting, reach out to a Bigfoot researcher in the area. And so he sent me an email saying that he was camping out at the Chautauqua Gorge. It's a state lands at the end of Hanham Road outside of Mayville. And I go there all the time when I can go out looking for Bigfoot. And he was camping there. I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you he was camping there at a particular campsite. He was looking across the creek, one night, and he saw Bigfoot standing there, and he watched him or it because we don't know if it's a him or her for a while, and they watched each other, and after a while he got up and went back to his campfire, not wanting to bother it or him or her, and not wanting to be bothered by it. I saw him again for the next few days. He wrote, the Reverend wrote. That means he saw the Bigfoot for at least 3 more days. That's 4 days total. That's right down the road, right? It takes about 20 minutes to get there from here, but I've been there a bunch of times. And the Chautauqua Gorge is probably has one of those families. If there's areas in Chautauqua County that I believe can house 20 or 20 more or more Bigfoots, the Gorge has got a family of 4. Out by Cockane or Cherry Creek's got another family of 4. Over in Panama, there's another family of 4. What's that, 3? That's 12. So, I mean, it would be not a stretch, Steve, and I'm not babbling on here, but I'm thinking out loud as I talk about it because, hey, I'm in my high season. My high season at cottage rentals and boat rentals and et cetera, et cetera. And so I can't do a lot of Bigfoot, but I can tell you, Steve, that there's a bunch of hot spots.
Yeah, I mean there is a lot of sightings that generate from the western part of New York. That's why we got people like Mike Ann out there doing the job, and
right.
You know,
right.
And here's actually here is a hang on a second. Here is a great a great idea for you. Is that Mike made somebody made a mention of the Bigfoot mapping project. So if you look online at the Bigfoot mapping project, perhaps you can find some sightings in your area too, or get those sightings that you come across added to that as well. The other thing is use the power of Google Maps. Google Maps will, you can actually start your own map file, and you can start putting pins on these maps of where these sightings are. And you can put little descriptions. So if you hover over them, it'll come up with a description. I use that for my area. I'm working on yet another area. This is eventually going to be research area number 5 for me. And that's actually in the county across the river from me in Saratoga County. You know, and Pat gets credit for that whole thing. But we do have some questions. Do you know anything about the Sherman monster?
Yeah, I got the book here in my office. Hang on, I'll go get it. Oh, no, that sounds serious. So anyways, the gentleman that was part of or wrote it reached out to me, and he sent me 5 or 6 books. I got them for sale down in the office, and it sounds interesting. It's you know, Steve, and I'm not Brad has thought about it. I don't know anything about the Sherman monster, Steve. I think it's in, you know, like it could be a Bigfoot, it could be an offshoot, it could be like a paranormal or whatever, the other animals that are running around out there that have been quoted to be seen. But unlike a Bigfoot, that's probably the obvious average.
So I do have a little bit of breaking news thanks to Mike sending this me over this Facebook post. but it has come to my attention that Dr. Bruce Maccabee has passed away.
Oh no!
Um,
Wow, that was sudden.
yeah, very sudden.
I hate to hear
so,
that.
So our condolences go out to Chan.
Yeah.
Well, we might not agree on everything philosophically. There was no ill intent on my part or anybody here.
No.
And Bruce did the analysis for the Vermont trail cam photo.
Yeah, much respect for that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, Bruce made major contribution was in the field of ufology. But yeah, that's bad news, sad news.
Yeah.
Wow. So Steve, the last Bigfoot Expo I did was in 2022 at bigfootexpo.com. And I should have plugged this in the beginning, but I flew Dr. Jeff Meldrum in from Idaho University, and had a slate of speakers. Now get this, as an entrepreneur, I thankfully have somebody like Steve that's a willing player to coming. I pay him $100 gas money, a free cottage while he stays, and the camaraderie that friendship has, same way with most of the speakers. Well, Dr. Meldrum, I had to pay him blah, 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 and fly him out here. It is what it is. And you can watch that whole 6.5 hour 2022 Bigfoot Expo at the Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo that Steve's talking about at Camp Anyasa. The last one we'll ever have, probably, unless somebody steps up and pays for it all. I'm not going to do it again. Yeah. But for $2, you can watch it on a streaming video, and it's good for a year. And I tried that as an entrepreneurial event. I paid a professional videographer, Tim Fagan, who works out of Nashville, Tennessee, who's obviously very famous in the Nashville, Tennessee videography world. He works at the Old Opry and et cetera, and he's from Jamestown, and he videoed the Bob Gimlin 2013 Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo that Steve Kulls was at, and that's available. And so we make mention to. But Steve, you're Hollywood, and we've tried to make it Hollywood in the sense that I tried to create and present a professional, honest representation of Bigfoot, because I wouldn't represent any hoax, because I'm a businessman. Like Chris Almighty, I own a.
And that is the really cool thing, because I remember us having discussions over that kind of stuff. And, Peter's always about trying to get the real story out there. I remember the first time coming out there was 2011, year before, or was it, right? Or was it 2012? Or was it 2011 or 2012, the first one?
2012 was the first one.
So I remember coming out there, and it was an awesome event. I remember meeting Larry Batson, and Larry had his Saharan desert turtle wandering around the grass.
Right.
And I sat down, and the turtle walked down, hobbled on over to me. And then Larry, and this is a little tribute to our good buddy Larry. And I remember him saying, "Oh, you should see what I have in the bathtub." So I go wandering into his cabin, into the bathroom, and I look in the bathtub, and sitting in there is an alligator about yay big.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And the minute he saw me, the alligator's like, you can hear him starting to dance. And he was like, he goes over to the alligator. Oh, shush. And he flips the alligator over and starts rubbing its belly. And the alligator's like, right out. But Larry, actually, you know, he handed me the boa. That was the first time I held a boa constrictor, which was really cool.
No.
No.
And then the tarantula. And I lost that video of me holding the tarantula. And I'm like, yes, I have a tarantula in my hand. And oh my God, he's biting me. No, he's not biting me. But Larry was the one who explained to me that tarantulas will not bite you if you're holding them.
Wow.
Because they're very fragile. If you drop them, they die.
Oh.
So that's why they know if you're holding them, they're not going to bite you because you'll drop them.
No, I don't like holding snakes. I think that's a bad idea. I draw the line, you know.
Tarantula's a spider, though.
But a year later, I was working. I was actually taking some time off in the investigation business, which I did from 2010 to 2013. I was working with disadvantaged youth, and I went to one of their homes to visit them. And he says, "You got to see my parents' snakes." And the parents came out and like, "Oh yeah, I'm holding all their snakes, all the big, you know, boas." And you know, Chris is like, "No way." And you know, people have that thing. People don't like bugs. I mean, traditionally, I don't like spiders, so it took a lot of me to hold the tarantula, and that did a lot of my phobia. Same thing with snakes. I never was really afraid of snakes because I grew up with garter snakes. They weren't very big. And they were pretty harmless. So when I got that, and then he had the Gila monster, but of course we couldn't touch the Gila monster because their bite is, although it's not poisonous, it's their mouth is so covered with bacteria that if they bite you, you'll get this wicked, you know, Staphylococcus infection or MRSA, and it's really, really bad. But we do have a couple of questions still left in chat that I want to cover. Peter, you have any ideas what Bigfoot is? What is your ideas on what do you think a Bigfoot is?
Oh, I think it's exactly what it is. It's a bipedal mammal that's I wouldn't say it's an ape. I wouldn't say it's a gorilla. I wouldn't say it's a man. I'd say it's definitely a configuration between a man,
somewhere in between.
Yeah, somewhere in between that and I wouldn't say a gorilla, but I would, because they're intelligent. They're intelligent. I mean, I've learned so much in 12 years, and
so here's a neat thing to do. If you're bored one day, I want you to pick up and yeah, I know you're like, it's like, yeah, like I got like 60 gazillion things. But if you have some time, do a little reading on gorillas, orangutans, and chimpanzees, and you'd find out they're pretty intelligent too.
Oh, I'm telling you, the new Planet of the Apes movie has got all kinds of trailers out there right now, and I'm going to obviously watch it because I've been a Planet of the Apes fan ever since Charlton Heston created it. And golly gee, you know,
I think you know, scientists are saying that the chimpanzees are right now in their own stone age. They're starting to do more and more. But
well, chimpanzees are definitely more perceptive than a human being, and they've proven that. Matter of fact, I think there's some videos still available on YouTube if they hadn't deleted them, and they had trained these chimpanzees. They would have a computer screen, a touch screen, and there would be a assembly or a thing of numbers would pop up, a series of numbers, maybe 10 or 12 numbers, and then it would go blank, and they would have to touch the squares in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the chimpanzees could get it every time.
So
Number
there's
would
a little,
flash. Yeah.
here's a little challenge to that. I bet you humans would do a lot better, but a lot of times when they have studies, right? They'll pay the human participants a flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
Have that human sit in there and get paid for it to do it correctly. I bet you they'd score a little bit better. See, it's all about
it's all
about motivation, I think.
No, I don't think so in that case, Steve, because
I don't know.
The numbers flash so fast, then they're out, and then you have to touch the blocks.
Right.
You know, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could. I guarantee you, the chimpanzee could beat me. But I don't claim to be some sort of mental giant. but
still, I bet you, if you play chess with a chimpanzee, you'll beat that chimpanzee.
Well, probably, yeah. But the chimpanzees, their perception, they can see something like that, and they've got it.
Yeah, they got that memory, in their flash memory. Right?
And I think that has a lot to do with how Bigfoot can peep at somebody, and that's all they need. They stick their head around a tree, and then they're right back.
Right.
And they've seen everything there is to see about that person.
Well, you got to understand too, as our evolution changes as a human being, some of our more primal instinct gets dulled. Like your perception can be, you're not out in the woods for a long time, right? It's going to take you a little time to adjust before your perception is off.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people, don't understand that necessarily, is that people say, well, we have no perception of the woods. No, we do. Just go out there by yourself and sit there for an hour, and all of a sudden you'll be like hearing things and seeing things and smelling things,
right,
and feeling things that sitting here in my office, I don't feel anything of the forest, but I get out there. Give me about a half hour, and okay, I'm in tune.
Right.
I'm starting to get in tune. And the more you do it, the quicker you get in tune with it. Like a hunter can go out into the woods, and within 5 minutes, they're in tune.
And I got to tell you, Steve, that no matter where you are in the country, if you're in New York State or Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, if you want to try to see a Bigfoot, I got it figured out.
Yep.
You want to go to that wilderness area, whether it's state lands or county lands or wildlife preserves, that they got 1,000 or 2,000 or more acres set aside. Doesn't matter where. I kid you not. I think that's a first good try at seeking out a Bigfoot. Obviously, they hide in the swamps during the day and forage in the woods at night. So you're going to be looking for wetlands because they got to drink a lot of water. They're a mammal. They're big. They're human, basically, or in so many words.
Well, primate, yeah.
You're not going to be looking for them in a desert, duh. You're not going to be looking for them, on a mountain peak, although they've been seen above the wood line.
Right.
And I recognize, I'll tell you, if people want video evidence, all they got to do is Google it on Google, a Bigfoot video. Golly gee, I'll bet you they'll find dozens of videos. And if you think people are really going to spend time on doctoring them, I mean, after Steve's torn them apart, they probably aren't worthy. But for the average Joe coming out there, I think a lot of the videos that you might see on Google are real.
It's funny. One of the videos I cut, it's actually on the channel, is I'm on the way to the Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo. And I have a guy that I know was telling me tall tales, because one day he reached out to me. I picked up the phone. I listened to this guy for an hour babble on about this government involvement to kill Bigfoot. And I know he was full of horse maloney, but I sat there and listened to him. Okay, whatever. You know, he was a CB, but he was a sniper, which makes no sense because CBs do nothing tactically like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But he babbled on and on. And then about a week, he's saying that, oh, I got an area that's, you know, pretty hot right now. Me and a buddy of mine, so I'm on the way to Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo. I think it was 2016, maybe even 2015. Yeah, it was either 2015 and 2016. I have to look at the date on the actual video. And I get a picture of him saying, we finally got it. Here is a trail cam picture. We got a one. And it was a video that had been released a year earlier. It was a screen cap of a video that had been released a year earlier from this woman out in Washington State that later admitted it was a hoax. Somebody running by in a sweatshirt. So I was like, oh, really? So I had somebody videotape me calling him at the time. And he goes, oh, did you see it? Blah, 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 blah. And I just tell him off and hang up on him. And that was on the way to Chautauqua Lake.
Wow.
So, but yes, what a great event it was. And, you know, obviously you answered the question, will Wisconsin's return? Likely not. And Mike asked the question, Mike Ann, do you still have the track from Mary's?
I have it.
Yep.
I have one track that we made at Mary's.
That's right. And we were there. Peter found it.
That
I looked at it. I'm like, holy moly. There it was.
And yeah, it's downstairs.
And it was a very wet casting because it was at the edge of a little creek. But had it not been, because again, New York terrain really sucks for tracks.
Right.
That's
really, but
that's why I'm not bragging about it, because I'm not happy about it. It's a cast that, but Steve, I mean,
we saw the 5 toes.
You'd have to be a stretch to. I mean, we saw it, and what we cast is different, I think, unfortunately.
And the fact where we found it, it was way off the beaten trail.
Right.
We followed the creek down, and there we had seen some disturbance in the brush. And Peter looks and goes, look, and right at the edge of the creek, like it was standing there, we got this one impression that was still left. It was a partial that I think was kind of in the water, but it had been kind of eroded away. But here's this one right on the edge. And it may have been maybe a few hours old. It wasn't even, it wasn't an old print. It was a rather fresh print that was there.
And that's what I look for when I go out. I look for that little washout in the path, because that's where you're going to get a footprint. That's where you're going to get a whether it's a human or a Bigfoot, you know, walking the path. And yeah, that's what I encourage everybody. Look, you know, whether you're on state lands or county lands,
right.
You know, you don't have to get
New York
really, really far to find a Bigfoot, because
you gotta, and this is something I preach to the noobs too, is that just don't go out there and look at where your sightings are. That's where to look.
Right.
And try to pinpoint it. Look at the kind of behavior that's there. You know, more aggressive behavior means it's protecting something. That's where you need to be in that area.
And they do. They follow the water. They follow, you know, campers, because they hope campers leave them food. I told that reverend. So the reverend wrote me. I probably didn't finish that story. So he saw Bigfoot for the next few days. He said, I cleaned up my campsite every night. And I told the ranger who gave me the garbage bags about the Bigfoot story in so many words. He said, and the Reverend, I wrote back the Reverend, I said, yeah, you should have thrown him an apple or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The Bigfoot was looking for human food, pizza. I have a Bigfoot eyewitness that wrote me on my Facebook page of I have seen Bigfoot that lived outside of Warren, PA, which is just south of me in the
been there,
in Scandia. And he says he feeds 3 Bigfoots a pizza on Friday nights. And he says that
I'd be very careful of that.
No, but he's friended them. And so then the next time he writes me, he's feeding them from an area between there and Pittsburgh. He realizes that he's fucked up, that he told me too much, and that he tries to distance himself away from his home. And I get it. I'm not there to destroy him. I'm not there because I kept asking him. I says, come on, invite me to your house.
Of course not. Yeah.
I'm not going to fucking invite you, Peter Wiemer. Like I would turn on him, and I wouldn't. And that's what they were worried about.
Now, you know what they were worried about, Peter? And I found this time and time again. They will feed you a line of, pardon the French, bullshit until the point comes you say, show me. Now all of a sudden you're the enemy. Now all of a sudden they have to flip the script because they didn't think you had the cojones to actually say, I want to go down there and see this. If they're feeding a Bigfoot a pizza a week on Fridays, and I'll talk about that in a second. The only answer they have is a story. They're doing this. If they're friends with them, if they befriended them, why is there no evidence? There's no audio recordings. There's nothing. There's nothing but tall tales. So
he claims he has all that, blah, blah, blah.
But he's never shown you or never seen it. Right.
He doesn't want to befriend the Bigfoot.
Likely he doesn't have it. See, they're just like my guy that called me telling me these tall tales. He's got no evidence to back it up. And every time you ask for evidence, there's always an excuse. It's kind of like, oh, I did my homework, but I did my project, but I can't show you right now. Well, why not? Well, excuses are one. My point being is that if you look at the psychology of this person, it's not making sense. He's telling you all of this, right? Yeah, but then all of a sudden you're asking to see the evidence or the proof that what he's telling you. And now all of a sudden he turns on you and doesn't want to show you, doesn't want to, right?
That's an example to what I said to the Reverend in that you should have thrown him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Maybe.
When I go out on my e-bike, I carry apples and some oranges, a softball, a baseball, something that I can throw. Now I'm telling you, Steve, I'm 66. I can throw a Frisbee and also, oh man, I can't throw as well as I could. And so if you can throw an apple, that shows a Bigfoot that you're trying to give him some food.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice here.
Okay.
On what kind of food to bring. Don't bring oranges.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
They have no idea what an orange is.
Right.
Oh, no.
Right. Apples, great. They are the northern Sasquatch. They're used to apples.
Okay.
Right. Again, if we look at the primates, they have different cultures. Yep. And so they eat different groups of chimpanzees will eat different things.
Chimpanzees love oranges. Yes.
They love oranges. Some like apples. Some like other monkeys. It all depends. It all depends on what they were brought up. Just like Some of us like that old world European food. Some are like, oh, that's horrible. But it all depends on what you're brought up with.
Right. And
So,
I didn't know
so
that.
that goes to the fact of the pizza. All right. I'm going to tell you a very real story, and we've had him on the show as a guest, and I'm sure we're going to have him on again soon. Bruce Hallenbeck, who is from the Kinderhook, New York, and he was featured on Small Town Monsters talking about the Kinderhook creature in the 1980s, which is in Columbia County, just across the river partly from Albany County and south of Greene County. It's across the river from that, the Hudson River, and it's south of Rensselaer County, New York.
Oh, wow.
So Bruce's mother was seeing a Bigfoot during this whole flap on her property. So Bruce took the bird stand off the bird house off the stand and started putting food up there. He put a raw chicken up there one day, and you had to reach up pretty well. Next morning, chicken's gone. He did it with beef. He did it with some fruit. And then one day he said, I'm going to put a pizza up there. So he put the pizza up there, and it was gone. But he found the box at the edge of the wooded area off the property, kind of opened up, but not touched. And the reason why is a pizza to a Bigfoot would be so foreign that I don't know what this is. It's cooked. It's cooked. It's cheese. You know,
I think they must have gotten a pizza, you know, remnants from a box left over from a previous camper. That's the only way that I can
possibly. Yeah, maybe
looking for.
But then again, I think what they're looking for is the more crude proteins and the raw vegetables or the raw fruits, nuts, anything sweet, salty, like chips, because primates have a natural distinction for sweet and salty. That's why us as Homo sapiens love our candy and our potato chips, sweet and salty. That's our main flavors we love to eat. And that's universal to all primates. So you give them peanut butter, it's kind of salty, it's savory. You put a little, sweetness on that. Oh, now it's sweet and salty. So I learned but I will say this. One thing that will cause a Sasquatch to go violent, to get angry and throw a hissy fit, is you give it a pizza with pineapple on it.
Oh, really?
Do not ever put pineapple on a pizza.
Oh man.
Okay, so Sibylla Irwin,
yes, Sibylla,
taught me when putting food out for a Bigfoot. I got one of those milk boxes that you would plastic boxes. They now come in multiple color. They're probably 12 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch. I'm guessing. Or a little bit bigger, but I'd strap it to a tree. I'd find a black one. I wouldn't strap a bright one. And you put some apples in there, and you put a peanut butter jar in there, and you take the peanut butter jar and you wrap off the foil and write the date on the inside of the cap, and on the outside of the cap, close it. Because realistically, the only animal that can open a peanut butter jar, if it's closed tightly, should be a Bigfoot. That's a good little bait system to put out. If you live in the woods, if you live anywhere near the woods, try it, because I kid you not, those Bigfoots come in close. They're going to be looking. They're going to know what you're putting out there. And when in doubt, smear some peanut butter on the outside of the milk box or the milk case or whatever that is that I'm trying to think of.
And Kaiju Ninja said, put food in mason jars. Not only that, but the mason jars will get the prints of the Bigfoot on it. And those oils now with the DNA, anything now, if you leave a fingerprint, you are also leaving DNA.
Right.
And, we're talking about food, and Pat says, you're making me hungry. Again, we love food here on the channel.
It seems to me that if you could get a Bigfoot trained to eat pizza, I mean, sounds unbelievable.
You know what's more likely is a bear eating that pizza, because bears eat anything because they're scavengers.
What about maybe getting with a local pharmacist and maybe getting some anesthetics or something that whatever would knock it out?
And then somebody will find 17 knocked out raccoons on their property.
Roofie the Bigfoot,
Because here's the thing about peanut butter and putting peanut butter in jars. And this is, that's true. If I really want to piss off a Sasquatch, put Limburger cheese on a cleaned out jar of peanut butter. But here's the thing that people forget. Has anybody ever seen a raccoon? Raccoons have opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
So raccoons can get a hold of that peanut butter jar and open that sumbitch up like nobody's business. So you got to remember that too. So
I learned that the best spot that Sibylla had ever lived in Kentucky at that Bigfoot researcher, which was a doctor who was spending money on an outpost for Sibylla to research. And I got to visit there for 6 days. And it was remarkable, even though I'm telling you, it's a lot more desolate in New York State, in Western New York, a lot more foresty, where there it was just scattered in the valleys and stuff. I didn't think there was a snowball's chance that a Bigfoot would be there. But because the habitat was so limited, maybe it was easier to see. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Well, anyway, guess what time it is, Chris? We're almost towards the end of the show here.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. It's 10:54 already.
Yeah.
Never mind. I forgot what I was going to say anyway. It probably wasn't all that important. It was the thought of the day, but that thought of the day just left me.
Well, Kentucky, it does have some wooded areas. There's some national forests over on the eastern side. But the majority of it is, Peter, just like you're saying, Peter, it's kind of broke up into farmlands, and then they'll have little sparse wooded areas. But mostly the creeks and rivers are always wooded because nobody's going to farm the creek or the river. So they do have a little cover to move around through the state.
Now I remember my thought of the day.
Yeah, man.
Yes, if you read a science paper that says a bear is responsible for Bigfoot sightings, then ask him to explain Ohio. Just ask him to explain Ohio. Explain him to ask him Florida. There's no bears in either state.
Wow.
Or very, very limited. Like Ohio has like a few hundred bear, but it's very rare for a bear to be seen in Ohio for whatever reason.
Right.
So, and again, you look at states like Washington and Oregon, they have bear, but they're not as prevalent as you think.
Yeah.
So anyway, Peter, I want to thank first. I want to thank your partner there, Brad, for coming on for a while. He was a hoot. I think what we'll do is we'll get him to come up to my house someday, and we'll do an interview right here in studio. I can set that up.
Yeah. And we got to get Brad back on where we can hear him, because I could hear what he was saying, but it was really so difficult, And
but
a lot of the guys in the chat were having a little trouble.
But everybody that's seen a Bigfoot, if you want to share it with your name, no matter what part of the country you're in, reach out to myself or Brad at wewantyu@wewantyu.com. That's my email address. WEWANCHU@thesame.com. It's all right. If I ever go under, I'm going to sell the email address. If I ever go under, I'm going to sell the email address to a porn site.
Oh, geez.
Probably not, but we will continue as a happy cottage resort.
Well, again, I want to thank Peter for coming on and joining us tonight. It's been fun.
Thanks.
I appreciate Brad coming on, and I couldn't really hear you that well, bud, but we're going to get you back on so we can maybe have a little more volume next time.
Yeah, and like I say, the invite's open, Brad. You know, you come out, we'll spend the day. We'll go up to my sighting area. You can interview me right at the sighting area, right there. You can take pictures of where it was and the whole 9 yards. So,
and we want to thank everybody over in chat for joining us tonight. We sure appreciate you. It's always an honor to have you. We're tickled to death every week. Appreciate you guys.
I guess Peter's leaving. All right, folks, on behalf of everybody here, we want to wish everybody a happy and safe, healthy week. We will be back this Friday. We'll explain more what we're coming at you this Friday with, because it's going to be a little bit different this time. But anyway, again, thanks for being here, folks. We'll see you Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on SquatchDTV. Everybody, be safe.
We thank you for being here with us on SquatchDTV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on SquatchDTV. Keep on squatching.